So what I have on the agenda today, in talking about shame, we talk about it. We've talked about it a number of times, directly and indirectly, in these modules. I did a module on guilt and using the loving kindness meditation format, and then using guilt phrases that were oriented toward the resolution of guilt as the phrases in the process of the loving kindness format. So I thought I'd do that with shame. Because when we're talking about shame, the first thing that happens when you mention shame is somebody has a shame response. It's unavoidable. This is a way of treating ourselves with loving kindness. And I found too that oftentimes when we're dealing with shame, the feelings are so intense or deep that it's very difficult to address them. We kind of need to back off and go a little more slowly usually. And oftentimes I've found that with clients and friends, some people can't even really do the simplest shame exercise. Their shame responding is so intense. Their thoughts about themselves and their self-image and self-concept is so negative, it's almost like a trauma to think about and talk about one's feelings of shame. And when that happens, then I go to loving kindness exercises and see if they can do loving kindness exercises. Most of the time they can. In the loving kindness exercise, I look at it as the very next thing is compassion. But sometimes compassion is too deep or powerful or whatever, too much for some reason. And then then the loving kindness is much easier. It's easier to be kind to oneself. Found the loving kindness exercise I thought would be very helpful in dealing with shame. So in the phrases, I don't mention the word shame at all. It's all about the solution. It's not, geez, may I be good to myself and not get lost in shame. That's not going to work very well. So I put together some phrases that I just emailed everybody. So if you can access your email now, you can take a look at it. It's in the email as an attachment, and I will also share the screen with it too for those who don't have access to the email at the moment. And sorry it's such a late date, but I was behind all this week, and just glad I can get it out before the session, even though it was shortly. Okay, that's spelled properly. There you go. That's my email address. And if you're not on the email list, send me a note via the email I just put in the chat, and I'll add you to the. And then what I'll do too is when we start the exercise, I'll share my screen and have the phrases on the screen, and make it even easier. Now I have 5. For those of you who are not familiar with the loving kindness exercise, there's 4 phrases that we say in succession. First for ourselves, may I be healthy and happy, so on and so forth. And say those 4 phrases 3 times as a way of really absorbing the meaning as best we can. And then we go on to a loved one. So may you be healthy and happy, so on and so forth, for this other person, someone we care about. And the full exercise goes, the next one is to say the loving kindness phrases for someone whom you don't know, who you're familiar with but don't really know very well, like the bus driver or something like that, or the Uber driver last week or whatever. And so somebody who you know but you don't really know much about. And then the more difficult one is to pick somebody to say the phrases for somebody that you do know who is a difficult relationship. And that can be difficult, can bring up a lot of issues. So we're going to leave that one off for today. So if you feel adventurous, you can do it on your own. I'd like to do this several times, at least for a loved one. We'll see how the time goes. But if we have time, we'll go to do one for ourselves, one for a loved one, and one for a neutral person. And the phrases that I sent are all interchangeable. In other words, if you only like one of them out of the set, then feel free to fill in with phrases from the other set. In general, a number of them I put oneself first, something about oneself first, and then something about relationships, and then something about how we treat ourselves, and then how we relate to life in general is sort of how I've done it. But you can do it any way you want to. That's one of the reasons I really like the loving kindness exercise, because it's open, it's malleable. We can adjust things as we need to, and whatever feels right. Some of the almost every teacher has a different set of phrases. John Kabat-Zinn has his set, and Jack Kornfield has his set, and different teachers have their own sets of phrases. So it's really as it seems to fit, as it feels good. So I want to talk a little bit about shame responding, the shame self, and this topic really touches on everything we talk about fundamentally. I talk about that we operate out of a conceptual framework, and that conceptual framework is formed from how we feel about ourselves and others and the world. How we feel about ourselves is governed by our self-concept, and if we have a high self-shame concept, that influences our concept, our view of the world, our conceptual framework, and how we respond to people. Like, if we're high shame responding and a family member cracks a joke, and we take it personally, which is a sign of shame responding, that they're talking about us and they're criticizing us, that's because we're higher shame responding than we need to be. Instead of, if we weren't, we go, I would go to my cousin and say, that was kind of rude. Are you serious? And joke around with them. But if I take it personally, then my shame response comes up, and they don't like me, and I can't believe they said that. And then we develop a resentment. And when we develop a resentment, then we want to get back at them somehow. So the next time they say something nice, we'll throw them back a barb or something like that. So it goes on. And also I've talked about that the studies, long-term studies that have been done on shame, is that high shame responding populations is where all of the real big problems are in terms of mental health and addiction and unstable relationships and so on and so forth. When in low shame responding or high guilt responding, which I'll explain in a minute, high guilt responding, things are very different. There's long-term stable relationships and satisfying careers and that sort of thing. As we've talked about before, guilt and shame are distinctly different. Guilt is really, the way I like to think about it is that guilt is a clear conscience and a clear understanding of what our core values are and a willingness to adhere to them in adversity. Like if you're at work and your boss or your team or whatever wants to do something you feel is unethical, then that's our guilt responding, going like, this isn't right. So we talk about it if we can, and if we can't, and they really want to do it that day, well, we just find another job. Shame-based responding is, I can't say anything because they'll think I'm not part of the team. Or maybe it's okay because our bosses, and we make up all these excuses, but in our gut we feel it's not right. So we can't really stand up for ourselves properly in shame-based responding because we think we're criticizing our character and we think there's something wrong with us in a particular situation, and therefore we completely shut down. And we don't, in shame responding, we tend to be disparaging of ourselves and critical of ourselves, because shame is really about character. Anytime we name a person, like that person's a jerk or an idiot or something like that, naming is a sure sign of shame responding. Because what we're doing is we're making a global assessment about someone, and this goes for ourselves too. Let's say we're going on a trip and we miss our train or we miss our plane or something like that. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I'm an adult. I can't believe I do this. Maybe I shouldn't even go there. Maybe God doesn't want me to. There's all this stuff starts generating. It's about our character. There's something I'm at fault. There's something wrong with me that I missed this train or plane. When in point of fact, it may turn out that missing that flight was a good thing. And we don't know. And to give you an example, I was at my granddaughter's in the color guard, which is in the, football games, and they throw around flags and stuff. And it was their first time doing it, so I went to and I had never been to this high school before. So I drive in, and there's the entrance, and so I get my ticket, get in the bleachers, and I'm on the wrong side of the field. I'm on the other team side rather than the team that she's with. And I'm going like, oh, well, there's no way I could walk to the other side. I have to, this just wasn't possible. Well, as it turns out, when the band and the color guard came out to do their thing, they were on my side of the field. So she was like right there. So I got some really good videos of her. And so that kind of stuff just happens so many times, because they would have had. Her mom was on my daughter was on the other side of the field, a good probably 50 yards away. So I'm the one who got the good videos because I sat on the wrong side of the field. I'm going like, I don't know, nobody told me anything. So that's the kind of stuff that can happen, when we're not critical of ourselves. What's the point? So, and the other thing that is really important to realize, when we're involved in a shame responding cycle, there is never any resolution, ever. Someone who's strong shame responding doesn't all of a sudden one day go, oh, you're right, that's okay. And it's always more shame. It's a never-ending cycle. So once we get involved in a shame dynamic, then there's never any resolution to it. That's why people, I see people do some work on a weekly basis over at a behavioral hospital, adolescents and adults, and they're stuck in these terrible shame spiral dynamics, habits. And they're all trying to, quote unquote, almost all of them say, trying to figure it out. When you or anybody else says, I'm trying to figure it out, or I'm going to figure this thing out, that is a keynote of shame responding. Like, I can't tell anybody, I can't really get anybody to help me with this because it's my fault, and I can't tell anyone about it, so I can't share it with anybody, and I'm going to figure this thing out, so then I can tell you and other people, and I'll be a better person. So it's all about the character. And guilt is just about the behavior. Who in the world has never made a mistake? Well, zero. And so what do we do when someone who's guilt-based responding and not shame-based responding makes a mistake? First thing comes to mind, man, I really screwed up. I really messed up there. Why in the world did I do that? I don't know. But immediately get in contact with a person or persons and make an apology. So one's character is never called into question. So whenever we feel we're getting down on ourselves, I'm such a terrible person, or I'm this, or I'm that, and start getting boggy mentally and emotionally, there's some level of shame responding there. Now, in general, in mental health and in medical things too, naming these 3 stages kind of help to sort of sort things out in initial encounters, which is something is mild, moderate, or severe. And so it's important, dealing with shame, to be aware of those 3 categories. And if you have a shame response, Okay, ask yourself, is this mild, moderate, or severe? So if it's mild or moderate, if it's mild, proceed. If it's moderate, evaluate. And if it's severe, don't do it. Because strong shame responding has a way of taking the controls. So it's important to, particularly with something like the exercise we're going to do, start with the mild stuff. And so far, this has been the case. Whenever I say that, whenever we're doing an exercise, and I recommend people start with mild cases, then there's always at least one person say, "Well, all my cases are severe, so I had to do that," and it tends to be overwhelming. So see if we can just stick with the milder things. And this whole shame is so from what I've just said and the research and such, shame, the way I view it, is at the core of all of our problems, because all of our problems are about how we're responding to the world and how we're responding to ourselves and how we're responding to other people. So if we respond in whatever the situation is, we respond in a problematic way, then it's going to make things worse. If we respond in a wise and compassionate way, things will get better. And so this really affects our functioning in the world fundamentally. So when doing the exercise, to think about just the concept of, it's often referred to like this, is treating oneself like one's best friend. Someone, a good friend of you came to you with a bunch of problems, and they're feeling not so good about themselves, and I'm a lousy dad, or whatever it is. I believe everyone here would respond intuitively with loving kindness and compassion. So it's really about doing that for ourselves too, because there's not a whole lot of difference between the people on the planet, regardless of their station in life, their physical or mental health, or their net worth, or the jobs that they do. So we're really everybody's pretty much in the same boat. So that's what I think about that. And so I consider this, I hope it's helpful, and I'd like people's feedback either now or in the future about how you viewed it and whether it was helpful or not in the long run. And we'll see how things go from that. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. And as I said, we'll go through loving kindness for oneself and loving kindness for a loved one. And if we have enough time, which we may or may not, we'll do loving kindness for a neutral person. And does anyone not have the phrases? Okay, well, I assume everyone does, but I'll share my screen anyway, so you can make sure, and if you want to, you can read off the screen. So let me do that now. There we go. Okay, so that's about as big as I can make it. So, we'll begin. Finding a comfortable spot, comfortable position. One where we can really just kind of let go and just be. And we'll begin. and just coming to rest. And settling down into the ease of just being. Letting all the other thoughts and feelings just float away. And settling into the here and now, like a light feather settles down gradually and lands on the earth. Allowing us to just be right here, right now. And allowing our awareness to just be present, whether we sit with it as the body or with the breath. Allowing our awareness to rest here, in the now. And whenever it's drawn away, just recognizing it's been drawn away for some reason, and letting that go and returning to the presence. And allowing the world to fade away a bit, and the worldly concerns, and bring our awareness as best we can into the interior space. And we'll begin, and to begin I will choose the first set of 4 phrases for oneself and say them all the way through 3 times. May I accept and care for myself just as I am. And repeating it silently to yourself. May I care for and nurture my close relationships. May I turn aside self-criticism. May I bear life's difficulties nobly. And allowing the meaning of the words to soak in and be experienced as best you can. May I accept and care for myself just as I am. May I care for and nurture my close relationships. May I turn aside self-criticism. May I bear life's difficulties nobly. And allowing oneself as best one can to absorb this loving kindness. And we'll repeat one last time. May I accept and care for myself just as I am. May I care for and nurture my close relationships. May I bear life's difficulties nobly. And now bringing to mind a person whom you care about a great deal. An important relationship in your life. Warm and reciprocal. And allowing them to arise in your mind as distinctly as you can. Feeling their presence. and the feeling of being with them, letting that arise. And we'll begin with the phrases. May you accept and care for yourself just as you are. May you care for and nurture your close relationships. May you turn aside self-criticism. May you bear life's difficulties nobly. And absorbing the emotions and thoughts that arise. And are absorbed by your other person. May you accept and care for yourself just as you are. May you care for and nurture your close relationships. May you turn aside self-criticism. May you bear life's difficulties nobly. And absorbing the aura of loving kindness between you and this dear friend. experiencing the connection to its fullest. And now bringing to mind a neutral person. Someone whom you may or may not know by first name. Or maybe it's someone you just saw once, but they left an impression, but that you don't know them at all. And just bringing them to mind. Allowing their presence to arise. And knowing that you may never see this person ever again, but it doesn't matter. And even if you do, there'll be a silent knowing. And we'll begin. May you accept and care for yourself just as you are. May you care for and nurture your close relationships. May you turn aside self-criticism. May you bear life's difficulties nobly. May you accept and care for yourself just as you are. May you care for and nurture your close relationships. May you turn aside self-criticism. May you bear life's difficulties nobly. And knowing you may never see this person again. But feeling the warmth of loving kindness. And for the third time, may you accept and care for yourself just as you are. May you care for and nurture your close relationships. May you turn aside self-criticism. May you bear life's difficulties nobly. And allowing ourselves to bask in the warmth and the light of loving kindness. Knowing that whatever direction or however it's applied or directed, it always works, whether we know it or not. Always changes things for the better. And letting our body absorb these feelings and this experience as best we can. Like a sponge soaking up water. So that when the bell rings again, we can bring that with us as we go about our day. And come back to it at any time.